Hi everyone, Rosemary from Rosemary Astrology. In this video, I wanted to talk about the solar eclipse, also called new moon eclipse, coming up on October 2nd. So first, let me give you the date, then we'll talk about it astronomically. We'll talk about what a solar eclipse is all about, and I'll go at the end quickly through the sign by sign. So first of all, this is happening on the 2nd of October at 2:45 p.m. I'm always in Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time. Anyway, North America East Coast time. It's at 10 degrees, 4 minutes of Libra. Astronomically, we will not be able to see it. I was just checking on what site did I use? I used timedate.org or timeanddate.org. Let me check. Sorry, thank goodness they're not sponsoring this video. Timeanddate.com. But those who will see it best, the path starts in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So figure somewhere like American Samoa was one of the places I saw, and then sweeps down through the very, very southern tip of Latin America. So the southernmost part of Chile, I believe Argentina, they will see it the most. They will get a full solar eclipse just before the very, very end of Latin America, which I believe is Terra del Fuego. My geography escapes me. But yeah, so unless, the Falkland Islands, if you're somewhere in the middle of the South Pacific heading towards the east, so swooping down towards, again, the southernmost tip of, we're talking southern hemisphere here, southernmost tip of Latin America. So let's talk about what an eclipse is. Eclipses are always changes. They are powerful change elements. They're faded beginnings or endings, but happening in the shadows. Remember, an eclipse is a blind spot. It causes shadow. Something is blacked out. So we're not getting all the information. We're not really seeing what's going on. I always say avoid making decisions on or around the eclipse. Give yourself a few days before and after. So this easily from end of September, maybe the 30th to about the 5th of October, even ideally the whole week before or after. And this even takes on the aspect of not taking sides in something. You're called to give your opinion, or how do you see this? What side are you on? What do you think? Try to stay away from all that because you're not getting all the facts. So you're sort of going in blind to trying to make a decision. Needless to say, we don't start anything or launch anything on an eclipse either. Because this is a new moon eclipse, it usually marks a beginning happening in the shadows. So again, the wheels are set in motion, but we're not seeing it yet. I often get the question, well, when are we going to know, Rosemary? Well, sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years. You will hear astrologers say, look back to last month's new moon, or look back to the full moon, which was also an eclipse in September. Look ahead to the next one. I also find when a planet, not one of the personal planets like Mercury, Venus, Mars, but I call the heavy hitters, so Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, lines up at the same degrees, that isn't actually going to happen until Jupiter hits 10 degrees of Cancer in July of 2025. So I'm going to put that in my phone, in my agenda, and see what comes up then. But the idea with a new moon eclipse, again, something is beginning. It could hinge on last month's eclipse as well. So think of the idea, of a door closing because that marked an ending and something else is beginning. Now, this does take place in Libra. This is the chart on the 2nd of October. The sun, of course, is there alongside the moon. That's why it's a new moon. And Mercury is going to be right alongside there too. So first, let's talk about Libra. Libra is a sign, of course, shown by the scales or represented by the scales about justice and balance. There's a lot of fairness with Libra. There's a lot of seeing both sides as well. Libra is an air sign. They tend to be very social and they're very interested in other perspectives or, again, seeing another point of view. Across from that, because the sign across does matter, is Aries. Aries is very individualistic and very self-focused. Somewhat the opposite. Aries doesn't really worry what other people are thinking or if anybody else is on board. Very, very driven. Of course, Aries ruled by Mars. Libra is ruled by Venus. You always hear me say how much more diplomatic Venus is and how she wants to enter into relationship with others, something that Libra also wants to do. Again, with that idea of getting both sides and bringing about balance and fairness. There's an idea of justice as well, of things really being balanced out. These two signs, of course, represent the first house of self and the seventh house of other in terms of significant other in our life. Committed partners, I always say exes are included there as well, rivals in the competition, a mentor, someone that is very significant and transformative for you. So, often we'll hear someone say, oh, the competition was really, really tough and forced me to surpass my usual boundaries or give the very best of myself, or my spouse has made me a better version of myself, or even an ex can define how we want to show up in relationships or don't want to show up in relationships anymore. Of course, our individuality here in the first house, we don't want to lose ourselves in the seventh, right? We don't want to completely dissolve into there and lose who we are, our personality, our uniqueness. That contributes, but at the same time, of course, these significant other people do have an effect on us related to how we grow, how we transform, who we are, our personality, and how we show up for others. So for all of us, this is going to be a lot about self in terms of the relationship. And again, something is beginning in terms of how we relate, of how we do relationships. Maybe we're not seeing it yet. Or it could apply to that significant other person in your life. And remember, when I do go through the sign by sign, this can apply to you, or it can apply to a person concerned by the house. Just briefly, right alongside that eclipse, Mercury is going to be there. So Mercury, of course, is out of post-retrograde shadow. Mercury is full steam ahead in the month of October. But Mercury is our communications, our thought process. It's also discussing, negotiating, agreeing on something. The seventh house can very much be about discussing, negotiating, agreeing on something. Mercury also rules commerce as well. So if you're, this is more a business partnership that comes up for you, this can definitely concern that. Mercury likes to communicate a lot. There's a lot of comparing options, a lot of examining what is out there. So we're going to be very focused on that idea of relationships. But again, and I wrote in my notes, play your cards close to your vest on the days around the eclipse. Reflect, think, look at what's going on, but don't act, don't speak out, don't speak up, because again, you're going to be doing so without knowing all the facts. So in that same idea, avoid agreements or negotiating or trying to settle on something, because you're going to be doing this with missing intel. You're going to be coming to a conclusion or settling on something, but you don't have all the information yet. So for all of us, again, it's going to bring in this eclipse a change, something new in terms of how we do relationships. And again, of course, that bounces off of who we are as individuals. So, are our close relationships helping us as individuals? What does other mean for us, or what do they do for us? I'm often reminded, I think it's Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately? There's sometimes that comes up in a relationship. You start thinking, what exactly have you been doing for me lately? And we always think of romantic relationships or committed partnerships, but this can be a very, very close friendship as well. And again, it is starting in a very hidden way. So you're probably going to look back and say, oh yeah, that's when that really started to transform, but I didn't really notice it at the time, or I did, but I didn't really think it was something. And the other thing about an eclipse is there's usually a front story. So we're distracted. We think, okay, that's what's going on. But in the background, there's actually this new beginning coming up. So just quickly, let me go through the sign by sign. Of course, Libra, this is happening in your first house. You are the reverse of the natural house chart. I always say that. So your individuality, your personality, what makes you unique? There is something transforming there. It can also be your outward appearance. So your wardrobe style, your physical appearance, your online profile, something is starting there, something is changing, but you can't really see it yet. Or maybe you're just thinking about it. You are an air sign. There's a lot of thoughts, ideas, concepts. Maybe you are thinking about it, but nothing has really manifested yet or won't manifest for a while. And of course, across from you is going to be seventh house of relationships, and there is going to be a play or an effect with that area of your life as well. If you are Virgo, of course, this is happening in your second house. Everything you own, your wealth, your income, your property, something new is beginning there as well. Could it be a new income stream? Could it be a new way of saving money? Maybe it's just a new way of looking at what you value. And again, happening very, very much in shadows. This, need I tell you, Virgo is not the time to be, changing your investments or starting a new revenue stream or really implementing something, because again, you don't have all the information. And of course, across from that is the eighth house that's going to get pulled into that, which is the wealth you share with someone else. It also includes your debt, and it includes inheritances as well. Leo, this is taking place in your third house. This is everything to do with your communications, your thought process. It's also your siblings, your cousins, other relatives as well. It's what is familiar to us, or our familiar surroundings, short trips, commutes to work and to school. So something is changing there. Maybe the way you show up in terms of communication, what you say, how you say it. It even includes our thought process as well. The third house relates to Mercury. So if I sound like I'm repeating what I was saying for Mercury, that's not your imagination. It is the third house related to Mercury. But maybe you're communicating differently. Maybe you're communicating more. Maybe there is something new happening in terms of your relationships, again, with siblings or cousins or other relatives. And it will pull in ninth house elements, which is everything that's foreign, our life outlook, the big questions of what we're here to do in life and what it's all about type of thing. Cancer, this is taking place in your fourth house. This is the house related to your sign, everything to do with family. So a new beginning in terms of family relationships, or it could even be the seeds of a move that are sown. Maybe, the idea is going to come up. You're not really noticing it. Maybe it is happening in shadow. It's going to be sprung upon you, eventually in a certain way. Remember, this can also concern family members. When I said, the eclipse can bring change elements, it's fated change. It can concern us, or it can concern the people designated by that house. So maybe it has to do with family members, again, family of origin or family of choice, and it is going to affect you. Across, of course, from you, Cancer, that the house that is going to be bouncing off of that, or that is opposed to that, is your 10th house of success. So again, questions of where you seek success, is that maybe going to play on what is happening in your fourth house. Gemini, this is your fifth house. This is romantic partners, children, be they your children or other children in your life. I often say they can even be adult children. So just that idea of next generation. The fifth house is very much our individual self-expression. We say it's recreation, creation, and procreation. So it's all our artistic pursuits, how we express ourselves creatively, I should say. So it's not just artistic pursuits, but, maybe you sing, maybe you write poetry, maybe you like to build things. It can be what you do for fun as well, or entertainment. So, is a good time for you going to a museum? Is it going to a rock concert? Is it going hiking, for example? This also includes sports. This could be something, a beginning, something starting with a romantic partner, with the children in your life. And again, it is going to affect you. There's an idea of individuality and sovereignty with the fifth house. Across is the 11th house, of course, of our social circle and groups we belong to, more an idea of conformity. But maybe there's really an idea of individual self-expression, and the seeds are going to be sown, or maybe the idea of having to stand up for just, you being you. And it could be in relation to romantic partners, again, romantic choices. The fifth house is also sex as well. So, could be how you express yourself in that way. And again, across the 11th house, I always get the feeling 5th house, 11th house is like, the group sometimes approving or disapproving of how you conduct yourself sexually, for example. Or it reminds me of a book I read, and one of them, these three friends task each other with bettering their relationships, and her job was to actually go out and have more affairs because she had been too stable or something. Anyway, I digress. But, that judgment of the romantic partner, that judgment of the group of, how are you raising your child? Or again, maybe it is going to have something to do with sexual partners, and does it conform or not conform to the group? That idea of unspoken rules, that's the term I was looking for. But again, this change is happening slowly in hiding, I want to say, with the eclipse, Gemini. And remember, it could again concern a romantic partner, or it could concern children in your life. Taurus, this is happening in your 6th house, of course, where you are of service to others. It is your work, so paid and unpaid, even academic workload. It's your physical health as well. So all the habits, or good or bad, and lifestyle that goes with that. Something is changing there, but again, you're not seeing it. Could it be in terms of your work? Could it be in terms of your lifestyle? It is happening in shadow. Again, I would also keep my eyeballs peeled. I've always liked to use that expression, to what is happening in your workplace. Definitely something might be going on there, but it's sort of happening, could I say, behind closed doors or in shadow. And of course, across from you is the 12th house that has everything to do with your inner self. So that could be tying it in, where you're showing up for others in terms of work, again, both paid or unpaid. Maybe you're a stay-at-home parent. Maybe you're retired, and our inner self, right? That part of us we have to nurture. So sometimes it's, the balance between the two. If you are Aries, of course, everything I said at the beginning of the video applies to you. This is your 1st house of, or your 7th house rather, that is changing, something to do with relationships. It could be a committed partner. Maybe you're going to see something changing. Eclipses can eclipse a situation or a person out as well. I don't want to make this all scary astrology and tell you, oh my gosh, your committed partnership is over, but there could be a transformation there that is happening, and it's starting, but it is starting again in shadow. And of course, it is going to affect you because across is your 1st house. Pisces, this is happening in your 8th house. Other people's wealth, financing, debt, shared property, anything that is shared in terms of wealth and property. It is inheritances as well. Something is beginning there, beginning in the shadows. Need I say, don't start anything, don't agree to anything, don't negotiate anything around the eclipse, because you definitely have information missing. But something is modifying there, and it is starting, the seeds, again, that expression, the seeds are sown or the wheels are set in motion, but it's happening in darkness. And of course, across is your 2nd house of your wealth. And of course, undeniably, there will be an effect there too, a rebound effect. Aquarius, this is happening in your 9th house, higher education, long distance travel, everything that is mass media, publishing. It's our outlook on the world, and it's all the information, learning, propaganda, everything that is different. Can be foreigners as well, or just foreign places. That is going to modify your life outlook. So that is probably changing. Maybe you haven't noticed it yet. An eclipse, again, can eclipse something or someone out. So you might look back and say, oh, this shifted and it really changed my outlook on things, or my life philosophy, probably started to change around that time. And remember, of course, across what is going to be impacted is what is familiar to you. The 3rd house, again, our familiar environment, our communication, it's going to have, again, that oppositional or bouncing off effect on our 3rd house. It's also our own communication and our own thought process. So it's going to affect the way you think and the way you approach things in life. If you are a Capricorn, this of course is in your 10th house, the house associated with your sign, Capricorn. So all about success, where you sit at the top. It's also people in authority, so bosses, supervisors, higher ups. It's even government authority, parental authority. One of those may be eclipsed out. It is beginning. It probably hasn't happened yet, or won't happen on the eclipse, but the beginning of the changes there, and it is going to usher in something new for you. It can even be how you see success, or it can be where you are looking for success. Remember, this is the highest point in your chart, and that expression, what wall is your ladder leaning against? So maybe you're going to move your ladder, and maybe you're going to say, I was seeking success in the corporate world, or seeking success in this job, but I've changed since then, and these events that came up way back then are what started to initiate that change, or change my outlook of what success looks like to me or means to me, or even where I am seeking it. Of course, what is going to be pulled in the house sitting across is home and family. Again, family of origin or family of choice. Sagittarius, this is in your 11th house, your social circle, groups you belong to. It can be, teams. If you belong to a team sport, if you practice a team sport, it can be a team you're on, anything like online communities, unions, any organization that you belong to, something that finishes in a society or association or organization is also of an 11th house concern. So something is changing there. Maybe, you are moving into a new social circle. You haven't, again, noticed it yet because of the eclipse. It's happening in shadow, but very subtly, the changes are beginning to take place. Maybe there's a first contact, maybe the first steps are being taken, but you're not seeing it yet. Across, of course, Sagittarius is the 5th house of our individual self-expression. So that is also going to be pulled into this story and is going to be modified, or it's going to have an effect on your 5th house of individual self-expression as well. And finally, a Scorpio, this is taking place in your 12th house. This is very much your inner world, where you go to get quiet, where you go to tap into those other worlds. Things like meditation, dream work, astral travel, therapy are all, 12th house elements. There is definitely something starting spiritually. It can be an expansion of your spiritual self. The 12th house has a lot to do with intuition as well. It's where the boundaries dissolve. So that idea of being able to tap into other worlds, because we don't have those usual or regular boundaries we have when we're moving through our day-to-day world and we're in that beta state. When we slip into that alpha state, we can sort of get in touch with our inner self. And again, things like, and all terms are good, divine mind or infinite intelligence or collective subconscious. But this could mark, again, Scorpio, the beginning of a spiritual expansion. And of course, across from you, your 12th house sits your 6th house of where you are of service to others, the idea of work, paid or unpaid, other jobs, duties, responsibilities. So those are going to probably get modified inevitably as well, because if you are expanding your spiritual pursuits, maybe you're going to be evaluating as well how much time and energy you have to show up and be in service of others. So guys, hope that wasn't too long. Hope it was helpful. And remember, just the most important thing I always say on eclipses, just lay low, observe what's going on, and do know whatever seems to be the big picture isn't the real story. Drop me a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this. Hope it helped. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.